Alright everyone, additional exciting news on the literary front. Literally only a couple of days after releasing the Lesser Key in full. Of course, I've released some of the individual works from it, the Pauline art, and the Ars Goetia separately. The Ars Goetia already a top 10 seller, actually, I already checked. Now it's time to release Occult Literature 155, the Ars Theurgia Goetia, which is a separate but related text. Link in the description of my edition number 1 is the second book of the Lemegeton. Second and third links are to my books blogs on both Blogspot and WordPress. If you're looking for grimoires, if you're looking for alchemy, herbals, medicine, folk rites, academic works on spiritual matters and certain scriptures, the Apocrypha, Book of Tobit, and so forth. Now, you can find it basically all there. I've written works, I've edited works. These are just the occult literature releases that I've spoken of. I've got like 10 non-occult works on my library, too. We're talking about a large number of works. This work expands upon the basic ritualistic premise in part of the Ars Goetia, the first and most famous book of the Lesser Key of Solomon, which was compiled in English edition first by Mathers and Crowley, dawn of the 20th century, comprised of 5 books. I redacted one in my edition because the Notoria is now known to be from several centuries earlier from the other works. It comprises the Ars Goetia, which is basically summoning demons. This work, the Ars Theurgia Goetia, which is about summoning more natural spirits, they're less malevolent. They're also more constrained in the powers that they have. It's also beautifully illustrated. I mean, every single duke has its seal, and there are hundreds of them in this work. It's got more illustrations than the Ars Goetia, with 72 demons, actually. Then there's the Ars Paulina, which is about celestial spirits, and then the Ars Almadel, which is basically for conjuring angels and has its own... It's a very short work. I think it's 9 or 10 pages in total, plus the foreword. So it's not exactly a book. I can't release it on its own. It's well under the page limit. This work is interesting. But I must caution you, if you do intend to buy a copy of this, you should get the Ars Goetia as well. And you can get standalone versions of that. Mine isn't the only one, although, I may be biased, but I think mine is the best. the best illustrated, the best formatted. It could be biased on that one, though. Has the coolest cover, and I think is also the cheapest, so keep that in mind. Some of the rituals in the Theurgia require, actually, conjurations from that work. But there are conjurations at the end in a general sense, and it's quite interesting overall. It's over 100 pages. It's as long as the Ars Goetia, unlike the Paulina, which is, I think, 60-ish pages, and the Almadel, which again is 9 or 10. This is technically its own full-length work, and it was its own work. It was a companion to the Ars Goetia, expanding upon it. The idea is that there are certain hours ascribed to certain dukes that you can call forth under these various other demons that are within the Theurgia Goetia. Some of them don't have any underdukes. And then some of them, their dukes have dukes, actually, that are subjugated to them. It's a little bit complex. The natures of the spirits, the main spirits are spoken of in brief. The natures of the dukes, other than saying, yes, they're all good, yes, they're all bad, or some of them, this one is the exception, this one will help you, these other ones, you got to constrain them with a second conjuration. It's a little bit more complex than the Ars Goetia, where it's basically, hey, call forth the spirit, conjure them this way. Sometimes you have to wear a magic ring because otherwise their breath will, give you disease or something. It's a little bit more complex than the Ars Goetia. Strongly recommended. It's definitely part of any occult library you would need. It's a work technically of gray magic. These spirits are not specific. Like in the Ars Goetia, a lot of what you read is these spirits are for killing your enemies, building a fortification and staffing your army, knowing what your enemies are doing, causing gangrene and wounds and crazy things like that. These ones are more mixed in what they're able to do. And so it's an interesting work, again, of gray magic, both positive and negative at times. It has a little bit of everything in it, and it's definitely a necessary addition to any good occult library. That being said, again, you need the Ars Goetia to fully understand it, and the Lesser Key itself has 2 additional works which provide additional explanatory material in essence. Then there's the Ars Notoria, again, or Ars Nova in shortened form sometimes, a little bit different, there's several variants, which also is part of the initial Lesser Key. So yes, again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. Again, completely re-illustrated by the very talented Rita Metzner. I've reformatted it, cleaned up the language significantly, new forward and everything else. Second and third links to my books, blogs, if you would like additional reading material. That's about all. Peace out.